Hello. In connection with the military actions on the occupied territories of Azerbaijan, between representatives of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Russia, and other countries, there are heated discussions on the internet. Who is right, who to blame, and who is on whose side. The first and most important thing to say: no one is attacking Armenia. The fighting is taking place on the territories of Azerbaijan, accepted and recognized by the UN Security Council and the international law. But we will speak about something different. I became curious to observe how speaking and using facts with the Armenian side about the 4 Security Council resolutions adopted in 1993, about the international law, and about the fact that more than 50 countries of the world support the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, including Armenian Republic itself, which doesn't officially recognize Nagorno-Karabakh. We are answered in response about 3,000 years of Armenian history on Nagorno-Karabakh. No facts, many words about history, and links to Wikipedia about the antiquity of Armenians in Karabakh. And it's not just one person. These comments are massive. So let me explain in a few words what Wikipedia is and how it works. So we go to the Wikipedia website. The first sentence we see: "Welcome to Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia that anyone can edit." So as an excuse for the war, we're offered links to a website that anyone can edit. I'll show you how to create your own Wikipedia article. You register like on any other website, then you write an article and must indicate the sources. Let's say I decide to write an article about the great state of Mozambique. I need links to sources. For this, I'll create a separate website dedicated to the topic. And then I'll refer to my own website in Wikipedia. This strategy works for those people who do not check links to the resources. It's simple. People in principle are going to Wikipedia looking for quick information. When you want to find something, you no longer go to the library to search. And only few people in principle want to go deep in any aspect on each topic when they're not professionals. We just go to Wikipedia, see the article, read it, and draw conclusions while not checking the sources, as not as not checking the credibility of the sources themselves. For example, it's written that the source is some book. You usually don't look for the book and check the impartiality of the author of the book. Thus, Wikipedia is not a reliable source of information because any interested person can edit articles. At the same time, we will not say that in the modern world, within the internationally recognized borders of countries, there is no place to talk about history as an excuse for military actions. Since there are amicable agreements and the world borders of countries are determined, if representatives of any nationality begin to demand separation from the country where they live, just because in the first millennium BC some ruler of their nationality ruled this land, then the division of all countries of the world will begin. And we all know that this way of thinking led to the Second World War. Therefore, in the modern world, referring to 1,000-year history is simply nonsense and is not reasonable. But you want to talk about history. Okay, well, let's talk about history.
First of all, Nagorno-Karabakh for several thousand years is populated by indigenous Armenian people, and by the way, Artsakh name is aged for several thousand years.
So if you don't want to discuss the complete disregard for the UN Security Council decisions, we'll talk about history, or we'll talk using facts. So fact number 1, 3,000 years of Armenian residence in the territories of Nagorno-Karabakh is quite a long period. And during this time, there should have been a considerable number of writers, poets, scientists, philosophers from Karabakh of Armenian origin until at least 17th century. It cannot be that for 3,000 years of history of the Armenian people in Karabakh, there were no such people known to the world. Please name them. Speaking about famous people of Azerbaijani origin in these territories, there are a lot of them. But how can it be that there were Azerbaijanis in Karabakh before 1918? Because there was no Azerbaijan in principle, and Azerbaijanis are a new nation. This is how the provocateurs and propagandists represent Azerbaijan and Azerbaijanis to the world. And the ordinary Armenian people perceive this information and believe in it. And because of that, support the illegal occupation of 20% of another country's territories. Fact number 2. Armenian historians are very fond of referring to the book of French traveler Jean Chardin. The book is called The Diary of Chevalier Chardin, Travel to Persia and Eastern India through the Black Sea and Kalhis. The book was written in the years 1672 to 1673. Part of this book was translated into Russian by M. Martyrosyans in 1902 in Tiflis, but it was not fully translated, and the chapters about Azerbaijan were not translated at all. Therefore, Armenians do not know that Chardin wrote about Azerbaijan in 17th century, and from his diaries, this name existed in the 17th century. It was known, and by that time, in 17th century, it was ancient. Please check it yourself. Fact number 3. And again the question. Show Armenian architecture besides churches. Where are the palaces, castles, estates of Armenian princes, kings, or nobles? After all, for several thousand years, something should have remained. Fact number 4. Another question. For 9,000 years, Armenia should have had about 200 kings every approximately 30 years. So where are their graves? Just like in Karabakh, for 3,000 years history, there should have been at least 70 to 100 kings. Where are their graves? Please show them. Fact number 5. Look at the monument. Have you ever seen it? This is the Maraga 150 in the Shikharg settlement of the Tartar region of Azerbaijan. It was built in 1978 by the Armenians themselves to mark the 150th anniversary of the resettlement of the first 200 families from the Iranian city of Maraga to Karabakh. On the monument of simple river stones, there is an Armenian inscription, Maraga 150. The monument was demolished by the Armenians in 1991, but fortunately we have a photo.
Великий российский реформатор, царь Петр Великий, в одном из своих указов написал следующее. Любопытно звучит. Армян, как возможно приласкать и облегчить, в чем пристойно, дать дабы охоту для большего их приезда. Прошло всего-то ничего, 300 лет. Сказано, сделано.
So why have Armenians been resettled? And from where? In 1828, 1829, only 40 to 50,000 Armenians were evacuated from Iran and 90,000 of Armenians from Turkey. The resettlement of Armenians from Turkey to Transcaucasia took place within the framework of the Edirne peace agreement after the end of the Russian-Turkish War. So what do we say about 3,000 years of Armenian history in Karabakh? Something doesn't match. There are a lot of such facts. For that you have to shoot a whole series of documentaries. But let's just look at the last of the facts. Fact number 6. Look at a painting of Franz Roubaud. It's called The Capture of Yerevan Fortress in 1827. Note the presence of mosques and the absence of churches in the city. The capture of Yerevan Fortress took place in 1827, and the year after, in 1828, the Turkmenchai Peace was signed, according to which Azerbaijan, like Korea, was divided into two parts between Iran and Moscow. And 2 years after, the mass settlement of these territories by Armenians began, as evidenced by the Maraga monument, which we have mentioned. And this is only a small part of the facts. So, addressing to my compatriots, Azerbaijanis, remain calm and use only facts in your discussions. There are a lot of them. Addressing the Armenians and addressing sane and adequate people. There are many of them too. Please, use the facts. And do not succumb to government populism, which inspires you with stories about 3,000 years of history, while there are UN Security Council resolutions and the international law recognizing Nagorno-Karabakh and the 7 adjacent regions as part of Azerbaijan. Be adequate. Do not involve emotions. And get to the bottom of the truth without listening to propaganda. The people of Azerbaijan are peaceful. and have been hospitable to you for several centuries. We're not your enemies. Addressing citizens of other countries who do not have information enough and choose the sides of the conflict based on the religious beliefs. First of all, I want to say to you that Nagorno-Karabakh conflict has no religious background and refers only to territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. We defend our territorial integrity as any self-respecting country that should have done it long time ago. We have spent 26 years of negotiations. It's not a short time. Try imagine your home country in such situation. And if everything is fine, then think about giving 20% of your land to Armenia and at the same time, move to another part of the country. This is how it happened here. When you read Wikipedia, please check the credibility of the sources. Don't just read Wikipedia articles as important proof of history and then send it to your opponent. Check the links to the sources and see yourself how any information obtained from there is true and reliable. Speaking personally about myself, I was born in 1991, so I was born when the war began. I remember myself since about 1995. That is after the occupation. I've never been to Karabakh, but all my life I feel the pain for my people. Like my ancestors, I want to travel to Karabakh, which is part of my homeland. And I want to take my children there that I already have. And their new generation growing up in this conflict. We do not want the war. And we mourn the soldiers and civilians. We want the return of our lands, which officially are part of Azerbaijan. Therefore, defending the idea of Armenia from sea to sea, 3,000 years of history of Armenians in Karabakh, please understand the fact. Because from your emotions and beliefs in your own historical superiority, you actually occupy the territories of another country. You keep 1 million of people, refugees, who can't return to their home, and also support the killing of soldiers and civilians on both sides of the border. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can share it. Thank you.